We all have different coping mechanisms. How do you recommend people identify their coping mechanisms and then move, if needed, toward healthier ones?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Coping and all that goes with it is a broad topic, and there's a lot to it. But I think to start, defining what coping actually is. So, coping is what we do to deal with our emotions or big problems. And so, the thing with coping is there are some really great, healthy coping strategies that we can use to deal with our big emotions. Those are things that really allow us to kind of work through it, move on, feel better. And then when we're done, be able to be like, okay, I'm good, I feel better. Then on the other end, we have some more unhealthier coping strategies that we tend to turn to. And those are things like potentially maybe turning to food. So, for example, I tended to always be, and I still struggle with it, being an emotional eater. So I would maybe tend to go to food. And usually it's not like salads and carrots, it's usually like fast food and snacks and things that are not so healthy. There's also individuals who might turn to the complete opposite of just completely undereating. So, not eating, not feeling your body, not drinking water. Another common thing is retail therapy. So, doing some crazy shopping. We've also got individuals who turn to other substances like alcohol or caffeine. And then something I think that we could all really relate to is turning to our devices. So, being on our phones, on our social media. And the thing with these unhealthy coping strategies that I want us to start to be aware of is these are more things that are distractions. So while we might be eating food and we might be shopping and it might feel good in that moment and we might be like, yeah, this is good, this is fun. When I'm done eating my food or when I'm done scrolling through social media, that problem and that stress or that anxiety, it's still there. I didn't actually allow myself to kind of acknowledge that I was feeling a certain way, process it, and then let it go and move on. So that's something I think to self-reflect on. I want you to take a moment and kind of think about your past experiences when it comes to stress and anxiety. Think about, what did I do? How did I handle it? Did I do anything at all? Did I do something that allowed me to work through it and feel better and overall, move on saying, okay, I'm good to go? Or did I potentially do something that was a distraction that just kind of kept my mind off of it for that time being, but didn't actually allow me to feel better? And so once we can kind of start to become aware of those things, I think that's how we start to make that transition into finding some healthier alternatives. So again, using me as an example, I struggled with emotional eating, and I had to not judge myself. That's the key thing here, is recognize it within yourself, but be kind. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all growing and learning constantly. And so recognize, maybe, yeah, I don't necessarily handle my sadness or my anger in the healthiest of ways. That's okay. But now that I'm aware, let me take the steps necessary to change that. So when you do find yourself trying to cope and you maybe are falling into some of those unhealthier strategies, I suggest you just kind of pause. If you're wandering in the kitchen, you're looking through the fridge or the pantry like I would do, or you're scrolling online through social media after you had a really bad meeting that made you angry, take a moment and think, why am I doing this right now? Breathe in, breathe out. What can I do that will allow me to actually work through this and feel better and move on? How can I help myself? And then at that point, you can start making that transition to those healthier coping strategies, which include things like talking to somebody. And that doesn't have to necessarily be a counselor or therapist. If you have one, that's awesome. But sometimes just even talking to a trusted adult or a friend or, a pastor, somebody from, your religious organization, somebody that you feel that you can trust is a great way to talk through your emotions and let that go. There's also things just like exercise, moving your body, going for walks, going to the gym, walking your pets, playing with your animals. Journaling is another really big thing too, because that's a safe space for you to really write out everything that you're experiencing and then be able to let it go. And if you're struggling with journaling, I do suggest there are a bunch of journal prompts. So you can buy books that literally have like pre-made prompts in them, because sometimes I feel it's really hard for me to like write on a blank page. It makes me almost feel more overwhelmed because I don't know how to write it all out. But if you find a prompt that's like, write down what you're hearing right now, write down the 5 best things that happened today, that will kind of guide you through that process. And so I think as far as to who defines what healthy is, it has to be individual. It has to be something that you can kind of determine for yourself. For me, how I define healthy is something that I can do that lets me let it go, move on, and feel better overall. So that's what I suggest. Find hobbies, paint, write, read, listen to music, something that will leave you with an overall more sense of healthy and happiness.
I love what you said, moving through. I think oftentimes we try to, we're dealing with anxiety or we're going through something, and we just want to either sweep it under the rug and tuck it away and ignore it, or we want to sit with it and almost wallow in it in an unhealthy kind of way, which I also love that you're the one that defines what that looks like for you, right? But I love just that concept of moving through it, like acknowledging it. Yes, this is real. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. I want to name it, but then I don't want to sit in the thick of it forever. That was really helpful.
Thanks.